Hey, welcome to my first video. Today we're going to learn about CORS and how to fix CORS-related issues in React and Next.js. So before we get to the practical example, I just quickly want to illustrate what CORS is all about. It simply stands for cross-origin resource sharing, and what it allows us to do is to communicate data between several parties. Essentially just a browser security feature that is designed to prevent requests from the origins it does not recognize. As you can imagine, it often gets in the way when we're trying to work with APIs, that is, exchanging, updating, or deleting our data. And if the domain we're making a request from is not in the list of the permitted ones in our CORS configuration, then our request will simply be blocked. So what really happens when we're trying to make a cross-origin HTTP request is that our server includes a specific HTTP header in the response to inform the browser of the origins that are allowed to access the resources. And that is exactly why we have to configure or tell the browser which origins, methods, and headers are permitted. And I'm going to show you how to do that. It's actually really simple. Alright guys, so we're going to build this really simple project. Let's open up our Visual Studio Code. You can use whichever editor you prefer. I'm going to go with this one. It doesn't change anything. So let's just open up a new terminal, and I'm going to type in sudo npx create next app at latest, and just give it some name like CORS project, and put in the password. And then just click on yes for everything to give the default settings, and give it a couple of seconds. Wait until it's done. Alright, so once you open your project, that's what you're going to see, this typical Next setup. Let's just go in and clean it up a little bit. I'm going to go into my CSS and remove everything. Let's just add HTML body and root and give the height of 100% just to make sure that everything is centered. And I'm going to go back to my page and remove every single element. We're just going to add a new React component, export default function. Let's just call it home. Return, open parentheses, and just add a simple div, and then maybe some kind of a header like sample products, because that's the type of data we're going to be accessing. And since I'm using Tailwind, I'm just going to add a couple of class names like font, bold, text to Excel, and maybe uppercase. I also like adding a button when I'm testing things, because once we try to make a request, we'll be able to use it to console log the response of that request. For now, we're just going to leave it blank, like this, console log. And let's also add a couple of classes to our wrapper. Flex, justify, center, item center for vertical alignment, a little bit of gap. And I think that's it. Now we can go ahead and actually start writing our function. I'm going to use effect for that because we want to trigger it as soon as the page loads. And it's only going to happen once, right? So we're going to add the empty array dependency here. We have to import use effect from React. So just click here. And we have to also use state here because we'll need to store our response somewhere and get it out of this use effect function. So let's go ahead and add that product, set product, use state. For now, it's going to be an empty array, and we'll add it to our import as well. So the function itself is going to be called fetch product. It's going to be an arrow function. Don't forget to add the async await because we need our promised result, and we're going to be using Axios for making a request. So let's go ahead and install that. Sudo npm install Axios. So, okay. Oops. I'm also going to import that, and the link I'm going to be using comes from one of my projects. Of course, you should use the link from whichever source you're trying to pull your data from. I'm just going to paste my link in here. It's not going to work for you, so just go ahead and use whichever link, whichever source you're trying to access your data from. Await axios.get, and we're going to store this in a response variable. And then we're going to assign this response to our product like this, response.data. Products. Oops, sorry. And don't forget to start up your server so we can actually see what happens. Right now, nothing is supposed to work because of the CORS issue, and that is exactly what we want. And also don't forget to call your function so that we can actually get our data. And because we're using useEffect and useState here, it has to be a client component, otherwise we're going to get an error. So let's just add useClient up here. Now, one last thing we should do before we go ahead and test it, let's just wrap this into the try and catch block so we're able to detect errors. Catch, error, console log, error, and make sure you include your product in here. Now you also have to make sure that this port is the same as the one your API is running on, otherwise it's not going to work. And this one is running on port 3001. So let's go ahead and see what kind of results we're going to get. Of course, we're not going to get anything because of the course related issues, and that is exactly what we want. So I'm going to go into my developers console here and click test. Failed to load the resource. And the array is empty. So let's see how we can fix this issue. You have to go into your API and then into your next configuration file, and we're going to write some headers, methods, and origins. I'm just going to paste this code for the sake of simplicity and then explain what happens. But what's really important for you to know is just the source line has to include the source that is trying to access your API. For now, we're going to specify any directory, right? So it's going to be written like this. That means that absolutely any source can have access to your API, but this is not something you should do in production. So once you're in production, you will just put your domain here for the security reasons. Right now, if we do that and reload our server, wait until it compiles, it's going to resolve the issue. Because here we're specifying a couple of headers that are going to be sent together with our XCS requests in the header to our browser. And when the browser recognizes that the request is coming from some source that is allowed in the configuration, it's going to release the data to us. So let's go back to our Google and click test. It's empty right now, but it just takes a couple of seconds. So yeah, here you go. Here's the data. You can see there are 10 items. Everything is in here. So what we're going to do next is we're just going to map this data and visualize it. To avoid unnecessarily taking your time, I just added this div right here. It simply contains a bunch of Tailwind classes, and you can also add it to your project. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to iterate over the products array like this, products.map, product. And again, I'm just going to paste this part of code because we don't want to waste time on styling. Let me format it so it's easier for you to see. This image, it comes from next/images, and let's start with the key to be able to identify our products. So product.id, and then for the images is going to be product.images 0.url. You might ask me where this is coming from, and if you look at my data, my images are actually hidden in here in this images array at the 0th position. There's this URL right here. Your data is different, so all you have to do to map it is just look at it and identify what's hidden in where. Let me close this right now. Go back to my Visual Code Studio, and I'm going to add the price as well, product.price, and for the title it's simply going to be product.name. So that's about it. One more thing that I wanted to mention, you wouldn't normally explicitly leave your URL here like this. You would just use process.env, next public, API URL, or whichever name you prefer, and then you would just create the .env file right here and paste your link in here. It's simply a more proper way to do it. And now if we go back to our browser, you'll see that all of our data is displayed properly. So I hope you learned more about dealing with CORS in this project. Let's just also remove this button right here. And thank you so much for watching. I'm just starting out, but there are going to be a lot more videos coming in the future, so I'll appreciate if you can leave a comment and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.